From Transformers Studio Series 86, this is the Leader Class Dinobot Swoop. I'm really excited for this guy. Swoop is my absolute favorite Dinobot, always has been. Don't really know why. I think I just like pterodons. But you can see here we can get right into the box, no plastic. I like it. Also means you can take your grubby fingers and just be like, oh, Swoop cheekbones. And then you got the picture of the Dinobot mode there. Another picture of the Dinobot mode here. I do think it's funny that the Dinobots, out of everyone in G1, and even honestly people in Beast Wars, it feels like the Dinobots are more known for their Dino modes than robot modes. But here on the back, you have the, just looks at the robot mode and the vehicle mode. And this little bit here, this is for the Battle of the Autobot City. What does the description say? Swoop and the Dinobots drop in to destroy Devastator. That's great. And there he is flying again. Alright. Box looks good. Swoop looks good. Let's open it up. Just looking Swoop over, and I gotta say, I really like this. There's a couple of issues to go over, but I think overall the robot mode is exactly what you'd want from a cartoon-accurate Swoop. A funny thing about these Studio Series Dinobots, right? Because it's taken like 3 years to get all of them out. First one out was Grimlock. Grimlock was really good, but he was really more like the masterpiece figure, so he was kind of a been there, done that kind of feeling when it came to how some of the toy worked. Then you get to Slug. You get to Slug, and Slug is also really good, much better than Grimlock even. But you could still say there's some improvements to be made. Sludge had those improvements, but now he had some weird tolerances. But there is an upward trend going. Snarl, when he came out, was easily the best Dinobot. The best feeling, the most interesting transformation, the coolest looking robot, and the Stegosaurus mode was really, really solid. A lot of people walked into this Swoop hoping that he would continue that trend. And for me personally, I think he has. I think he has some issues that could potentially make people like Snarl more, but I think that you could look at Swoop and see the unique things he brings to the table and make the case that he is the best out of all of these Studio Series Dinobots. Which is great, because like I said, Swoop was the one I wanted from the beginning. Taking a closer look, I really like Swoop's head sculpt. I've been trying to figure out what's the best way to describe Swoop's character for anyone who doesn't know him. And it's somewhere between the baby of the bunch of the Dinobots and the nice guy. In the G1 cartoon, he was the most willing to work with the other Autobots. He tended to buckle under Grimlock's more egregious commands the most. And in IDW, they continue that on with Swoop once again being the most empathetic out of all of them. And I like that in the head sculpt, you can kind of see it. Whereas the other Dinobots always look a little bit angry or menacing, Swoop looks like he's a bit dumb, but well-meaning. Out of all of them, he has the most himbo energy. I mean, just look at those cheekbones. Articulation is actually really solid for Swoop. So for one, we have a ball joint at the head, gives you a lot of range of motion. I also love how you can use his big fin to help you go up and down. That's great. You have a universal at the shoulder, and up and down, and an upper arm cut, a good single joint elbow, and a wrist swivel. The wrist can also move in due to transformation. One sec, let me get that going. There we go. It's a little bit stuck, but you can get it out. I think I will point out, using the arm, you might work the chest out of place. It doesn't really click in so much as it frictions in, so that can be a bit annoying, but nothing too bad. Alongside that, we do have hinges here for the wings, and if you want, you can fold the wings all the way out. That's a little bit more like how he looks in IDW. Personally, I'm going to keep them folded in just because, I don't know, I like how boxy the robot mode is for G1 Swoop. You have a waist swivel, you have a universal at the hip, good ratchet joint too. Hey, listen to that. Yeah. You have an upper leg cut. You have a good ratcheted double jointed knee, which is really solid. And then down here at the foot, you can go side to side, back and forth, and you do have an ankle spur. It is all really well done. I think he actually is the most articulated Dinobot, and he definitely has the least amount of kibble to work with. Continuing on with Snarl, Swoop is a Dinobot that comes with a sword. The biggest complaint people had about Grimlock, Slug, and Sludge was the fact that they didn't come with the swords. That's the iconic Dinobot weapon. And here, I think Swoop's sword is really good. It's shorter than the rest, but it makes sense because he's the smallest Dinobot. And I love the details. They definitely went more toy accurate than cartoon accurate here. Then again, I say that the only one who had a sword in the cartoon was Snarl, which is also why Snarl was the only one who got a sword with their toy. It's dumb. It's a very dumb reasoning that they used for why the Dinobots don't get swords. But at the very least, Swoop came with his, and it's a great looking accessory. Really love it. But that wasn't the only accessory he came with, because he came with this much larger sword. Don't get me wrong, Swoop does look really good dual wielding. But you might notice that that sword is a lot larger than Swoop's sword. That's because that sword is supposed to go to Slug. That just leaves Grimlock and Sludge without swords, and unfortunately for them, you're going to have to get the Marvel Grimlock, which I don't want to do, personally, and I also don't really care if Slug and Sludge have swords. So for me personally, I'm just going to give Grimlock that sword. Is it 100% accurate? No. But at the same time, you know, it's my toys, I'll do what I want. Studio Series Grimlock with a sword, man. It feels really good. I kind of hate that it took this long to make it happen, but hey, another reason to buy Swoop is Grimlock feels a little bit more complete, and don't we all just want a more complete Grimlock in our lives? Tell me that seeing these three coming at you like that isn't the best thing you've seen all day. There's something about Grimlock, Slug, and Swoop specifically. Don't get me wrong, I like Snarl and I like Sludge. I think there's a reason why Animated went with these three. They're the best looking together, and when you get great figures that can pull off some good poses, it's just the best. Of course, getting the other boys in here is great too. Man, it took so long to get here, but now that we finally have a complete set of Dinobots, it really does just feel the best. Even when they're just standing together, they look amazing. I don't think there's any argument that this is the best lineup of Dinobots we've ever gotten from Hasbro and Takara. I'm counting G1, I'm counting Animated, I'm counting Combiner Wars. Well, those weren't Combiner Wars, those were the Primes. Doesn't matter. I think that this is the best 5-some we've ever gotten. And aside from Grimlock, I don't think there's any argument that these are the best figures that any of the Dinobots have gotten from Hasbro. Grimlock's had some options out there, you know, people might be able to say the G1's better, or the Classics Grimlock is better. If you were a big fan of RID 2015, that was a very different looking Grimlock, that one might be better for you. But when it comes to Slag, Sludge, Snarl, and Swoop, I think that the S-Squad all did better with these figures. And yes, I love the fact that Swoop actually is the smallest. When I first pulled him out of the box, I was worried he was actually going to be taller because of his fin. But no, he's noticeably shorter than the other Dinobots, which is what I would want. Swoop should be the smallest. Swoop should feel like the little brother. And maybe this is a little bit of the Fall of Cybertron fan in me speaking. I like the idea that Grimlock is the one that kind of has to look out for Swoop, because the other three are all such hotheads that they're not taking the time to look out for their little brother. I really love how these 5 all feel in hand, and aside from Sludge, who still has some quality control issues, his knees are just an absolute mess, I would honestly say that this is the best squadron of robots you can get out of Transformers right now. Get the Marvel Grimlock, I know he's expensive, but then get the other just normal releases of these guys. I hope they eventually do just a really big box set. Maybe they'll do like toy colors or something, because I think every Transformers fan deserves to at least be able to mess with all these figures. Just for fun, I'm popping the Authentics Wheeljack in here. This is where I keep my Authentics Wheeljack, is with these Dinobots. That said, I know a lot of people would probably like to check out how the Earthrise looks. In all honesty, in the G1 cartoon, I think it would actually be closer to the Authentics. He's supposed to be like a head shorter, but not that much smaller as this guy. At the same time, the aesthetics work better with that Wheeljack. Maybe if there was like a happy in-between, but I don't think that Wheeljack necessarily exists. And before someone says, oh, Origins Wheeljack is a lot closer to that guy's height than you might think. Alright, enough gushing about the robot mode. Let's check out that Dino mode. Well, it's G1 accurate if nothing else. Let me be fair. The transformation was actually more involved than you might think. There were actually double jointed hinges inside the torso to make this close up. That said, it doesn't fully close up on mine. I just can't get the hinge to go all the way. Alongside that, I mean, The kibble is where it's supposed to be, both according to the original toy and the original cartoon animation model. Even in the cartoon, Swoop didn't cheat all that much. Yeah, the arms still showed up, and those were always going to be his legs. At the very least, if you get Swoop in a flying pose, it looks okay. Still not great, but okay. And you do have articulation, hinges at the wings, hinges here. You can slide these back and forth. I think that, oh, also, you can move the head back and forth, and you do have an opening beak in which there is actually a gun in there. Cool, you can put like a little blast effect inside. I also think I need to say this. Really, right before I shot this review is when I shot Filch's review, and yeah, the Kingdom Air Razor is one of the best birds in all of Transformers. Swoop is, he's classic. Perhaps even outdated, but classic. Look, none of the Dinobots are accurate to how the dinosaurs actually looked. Except, weirdly enough, for Snarl. Apparently Snarl is still actually pretty accurate to how a Stegosaurus looked. The thing is, right? When you look at the other Dinobots from Studio Series, at the very least, Slug and Snarl looked great in Dino mold. And Grimlock and Sludge also looked pretty solid as dinosaurs. I would say, as much as I love the robot mode, Swoop probably does have the weakest dino mode, but at the same time, it is still accurate. So, for what Studio Series is trying to do, it's great. It's just, if you want a really impressive Pteranodon, maybe try out Cybertron Brimstone. Or, you know, get the Pterosaur, which is a Pteranodon that was just a remold of Air Razor. So the Pteranodon mode isn't the best. The transformation to get there was still fun, and it was accurate. And that doesn't change the fact that Swoop was still my favorite robot mode Dinobot to play with. He feels the most posable, and his wings give him an extra layer of options. You can fold them out and give him some truly ultra-heroic poses. I think Swoop is more than worth his price tag. He is my favorite experience with the Studio Series Dinobots so far, and a lot of that comes from the fact that he is the most different feeling. He isn't as bulky, he doesn't have as much kibble, and I like blue more than I like red. Yes, sometimes it's just that simple. Swoop has a better color scheme, and thus I kinda like messing with him more. For all those reasons, I would say Swoop was a more than worthwhile purchase, and I'm really excited to play around with his Wavemate, because the same day I found Swoop, I also came across Springer. So, we'll see when we get to him next time.